humbled to be here next to some people who have given me a lot of mentorship and also a lot to aspire to during my career in real estate. These folks I admire greatly. And so I just want to give you guys a round of applause for being awesome members of the GRAR community, and then welcome you. And then why don't you go ahead? Well, I'll first say who I am. I'm Rachael Veldkamp from Remax of Grand Rapids. I'm a broker owner. But then I'll give you guys the lead on saying who you are. Why don't you tell me who you guys are as far as how long you've been in the business, who you are, your names, and what you're affiliated with, and then also share some content or previous roles that you are serving at GRAR right now so that we can get to know you guys a little bit better.
Okay.
John, you want to start?
John Meyer. Yep, John Meyer, John Meyer Appraisal Company. I've been, I was trying to figure that out the other day. I think I first joined in GRAR in 1973. So I got 2 more years and I get my big 50.
That's amazing.
That is awesome. Thank you.
Incredible. Yeah. So when you were talking about knowledge, I'm not sure about that, but years in the industry, I do have you beat there. So,
You too.
been appraising since 1976. I sold real estate for 3 or 4 years before that, and it's been a good run. It's a great town. I've always been proud of my membership in GRAR and what they do for the members as well as for the community as a whole. And I look back on my service record, and I don't know if this went back prior to this, but it goes back to at least 1993, which was my first committee I was on. I think it was a pro standards committee, and then there was the appraisal committee. And as I looked at the rest of them, there haven't been a whole lot of committees that I haven't been on. So I've served 2 terms on the board. I've also been involved with the Michigan Association of Realtors Public Policy Committee and the Real Property Valuation Committee for both Meyer and NAR. I was in NAR's Real Property Valuation Committee for a couple of years. So that's always interesting. You get to see the insights from really the political side much more than the realtor broker side, but the political side is really what keeps the broker side safe and protects our interests.
Awesome. Thank you, John. Tracie?
Tracie Rich with Remax United. My resume is not nearly as impressive as his, and that's why I love this whole GRAR thing. These guys are always willing to share, and I learn a lot from them. I've been at this since 1997, so just about 24 years. I've been on the DR Task Force, GRAR Law, Pro Standards, Grievance, MLS Policy Task Force. I have not sat on the board of directors or anything like that, but I do volunteer quite often when I get a chance. So, yeah, and it has changed a lot over the years, and I've learned a ton by coming here. And when I go out to other country or other states and I start talking to them about their MLSs and their boards, I realize quickly how special ours is. So,
Thank you, Tracie.
Sam?
Sam?
Sam Sterk, yeah, with 5 Star Real Estate, 1985, so a couple years after you, John. So I started and served on several different committees, Forms Committee, Government Affairs, Pro Standard, Grievance Committee, Finance Committee, Candidate Review and Development. And then I was blessed to serve with John on the board of directors for a 3-year term. So, yeah, it's been a great experience. I know we're going to get into some other questions later, but it just it always amazes me, the staff that we have here at GRAR and the level of competent people that we work with is just such a great thing to see. So
Awesome. Well, thank you guys for sharing that. Appreciate it very much. Like I said, I have the utmost respect for each one of them, and they've taught me a lot in this industry and helped me along in my career. So I'm humbled to be here. But a couple of things that I wanted to just note is what we're trying to do today is to explain to all of you guys as members what are the benefits and the understanding of your GRAR membership. And so I think that's one of the objectives that we have. The second one is to really understand why it's important for us to get involved in our committees and our task force, which these folks have just said that they've served on some good task force, and I have as well. And I've learned a lot about the benefits of being a GRAR member by participating in those things, and I'm sure you guys have as well, and why it's so important to get involved in our association. Collaboration is important. We've heard from Jody, who is our current president, who says, you know, we need to collaborate with our other agents and with our membership, and so that's important. And then the second thing is to just understand the benefits of the Realtor Property Action Committee, which is something that I think you guys are all major investors in, and you have done quite a bit to support those efforts. And so we're just thankful that you guys are here and that you can provide some more insight into the GRAR membership on what that means. So when I really learned about being a member of GRAR and what that means, it was when somebody nominated me to be a part of GRARLA, right? And so I had so many experiences at the association, but when it really solidified why I was here and why I wanted to be a part of it, it was because somebody nominated me to be a part of GRARLA. And GRARLA is an amazing opportunity for us to learn more about the association and what they do and the member benefits of what our dues and our investment into that program as well as our association means. And so you guys have touched on a few things about that, but I think it would be helpful for everybody who's tuning in today to know exactly what that means. And that was probably my biggest challenge was, what does that actually mean? What does it mean to invest in RPAC? What does it mean to be a part of the association here? And so I'm going to go through a series of questions, which you guys have in front of you. And I'd like to hear from you guys, since you're the experts, on what that means and how that can help the members here who are tuning in today to understand what those benefits and what their money and their investment into GRAR as well as RPAC means to them. So we recently got our membership dues. They were just sent in the mail, right? And we always see those membership dues and we say, all right, we have to pay these dues. And then there might be questions about what those dues go to. And sometimes, even as a broker, I'm like, wow, we have to pay these membership dues. But then I go back and I look back at all the things that GRAR has done and the leadership here has done in order to benefit our business, our agent's business. And I'm like, wow, that really makes sense. Okay, so let's discuss some of the things that you guys have benefited from by being a part of the membership at GRAR. Sam, would you be willing to start?
It's kind of like, where do you begin, right?
Yes. Yes.
So, you know what? Julie has always done a great job, I think, explaining what we can do collaboratively as a group you can never do individually, right? And so we enjoy those benefits of that collaboration. So I'll start out with the first committee I was on, which was the West Michigan Forms Committee. So I look at the forms that we use today, and what a beautiful thing. What would it be like if we had 2,000 agents using 2,000 different forms, right? Or even some of our neighboring associations which use the same form. And so it's just a huge benefit for us to have a group of associations and a group of members here at the association looking into these things, right? There's constant change in the law, there's constant change in what they require of us as far as inspections go and that sort of thing, type of title insurance, down the list, right? So to have a group that's looking into that, for me, I don't have to every year look at, well, okay, what new rules got put into effect? And here's the form with all the explanations. And, you know, many of us go over these forms multiple times a week with our clients, and we understand and know what's on the form. Most of us have it, you know, memorized. And so it's an easy that's the type of thing that I don't think you would ever be able to accomplish on your own, and if you did, it would be such a mess in trying to, just coordinate, okay, what form are you using? Well, I'm using this form. Well, that doesn't, deal with these issues. And so for me, I'll start out with that. That's just been a real, just a blessing to have that. Makes life a lot simpler.
I think that's great, Sam. One of the things that I think about right now is some of my agents call me and they ask me about the inspection clause and how on our GRAR documents, there's a separate inspection clause for your well and septic versus your regular inspections. I get a lot of calls from agents that say, all right, if they waive inspections on the regular inspections, does that mean that they've waived the well and septic, right? And those are the things that we as brokers or as agents would have to navigate through if we didn't have clear and concise forms and the forms committee working on those. So I appreciate that just as much as you do, because it makes it a whole lot easier when I can answer those questions and I can call the association or I can call MR and their legal hotline and say, hey, what does this mean? And get that information. So super valuable. Thank you for sharing that. Tracie?
I'm going to touch on probably a couple of different things. The annual GRAR meeting. It brings such a diverse group of agents and brokers together. But not only that, Julie has the ability to bring in speakers that us as individuals would never be able to hear. And even though she's got a big crush on him, he does come every year, Alan Bulio, and he gives us great content. And we're able to take that content then back to our agents, she's yelling at me, back to our agents and say, here's what we're looking at for the future. Here's how you plan for your business. And also then in turn, our agents can take that back to the members of the public and say, if you're planning on selling your home, this is what we think the economic forecast is going to look like. And that information just becomes so invaluable to us. It makes us look like a true professional in this business. So that's my annual GRAR meeting. You really, really need to come to that one. And then the other piece of that is the GRAR weekly newsletter that comes out every week. It takes a lot of time to compile that on a weekly basis, come up with the questions, for Jody to do a weekly video on, cooperation every week. But if you take that and you read through it every week, there's always a bit of information that you can walk away with and go, oh yeah, I remembered that. Or I never thought about it that way. I need to look at that a little differently, or I need to investigate it a little bit differently. So it's those two pieces. I think they're a great thing that a lot of other associations don't offer around the country. At least that's what I hear.
Yeah.
So.
I would agree with that, and I trust Julie so much that I have a crush on Alan too.
Hey, I got a crush on Alan.
Here we go, John.
Everybody in the association has a crush
guy's
on
great.
Alan now.
Great, yeah.
But what I like about what Tracie said is, for those of you who don't go to the annual meeting, go to the annual meeting. We do have valuable speakers. We have people that are giving us information that we can transcribe to our clients and make a difference in the community and set us apart as experts. And I think that's probably the biggest challenge in our industry right now is being experts. So, John, do you have anything that you want to share that you have experienced with GRAR that you feel like emerge or?
Well, I'm going to take a stab from Sam's here, going back to my first committee, which was the Pro Standards. And if we look at, and then I was on the review board and the grievance committee, and I think it's a group of people that get together and try to figure out the complaints that are coming in, whether the realtors really were doing the service that they should be doing, and if not, show them how they should be doing it. And there's that informational, educational, and just make sure that we as an association are on track and doing the right things the right ways. And there's a lot of loose cannons out there in the real estate industry. I'm sure we all all know, not necessarily in Grand Rapids, but in other areas around the country. And I think because of the standards that we've got and the agreements and the paths to figure all that stuff out, I think we run a pretty tight ship around here, and people are well respected and able to communicate and work together.
I love that answer. I love that answer. I think that the GRAR, values are to making lives better, and we need to do that by everything that we do out in the industry, and the way that the GRAR staff steps in and says, hey, how can we elevate the industry? How can we make people better professionals is incredible. And I would say, like some of you guys had said earlier, I have been around the country, and we have the best of the best as far as association goes. So we're really lucky to be here, and the opportunities that GRAR has provided to us. So I'm just going to name off a few things. So Rebar, Emerge, our realtor store, our Forewarn app, which protects agents, and we know that's a hot topic, has been a huge thing throughout the country that we need to pay attention to with safety of realtors. These are opportunities that every single dollar that you invest into being a part of the association make a big difference in how we are presented in the community to the people that we serve, right? These are big deal things that we cannot take for granted, because without those things, we would not have, our profession. And so to stay present and to stay relevant in the day and age where the consumer has access to every single thing that they need to know about a house,
Right.
we have to take extra advantage of the associations that we're memberships of, as well as the subsidy that helps us to be able to utilize in order to be better professionals in the industry. And so I'm just really thankful for all those networking opportunities, for the technology opportunities that we are able to afford by being a part of the membership. So let's move on to the next question. So GRAR provides us opportunities, lots of opportunities, which we've been talking about, to be involved in, but they also give us opportunities to be involved in the decision making. So when and I hear some things sometimes, and I am not unlike others where I have said, I don't really like that policy, or I don't really like this decision that was made, right? So I will be the first to admit that there have been times where I'm like, I'm not really sure about that, right? But there's been plenty of others among our realtor membership that have been upset about policies or procedures that have been put in place by the board, or have been happy with it, right? So with 3,500 members, approximately, that means there's a lot of voices and a lot of people who have a lot to say. And I know when I run my organization, which is not even close to that large, that I've got some people that love what I say and don't love what I say.
Don't always agree.
I can't believe that, Rachel.
No, I guarantee. But the point is, we have an opportunity, right? And we've talked about this. Mm-hmm. And you guys have been participating in this. We have an opportunity to be involved in the voice that makes the decision. So I would like to touch a little bit on what opportunities do our members have in order to be involved and have a voice in the leadership and in the decision making that happens at GRAR, and why is that important?
Want me to start?
Anyone can start.
All right, well, it's coming up.
Sam.
When does the committee assignments go out, Julie? November? So there's your opportunity. There's lots of opportunities to get involved in the different committees that are here at GRAR. that was kind of my beginning years ago. And again, I mentioned the Forms Committee. And when you get involved, you start seeing how all of this works, and you know the effort that's put in by both the staff and the volunteers on the committees to do the right thing, right? So it's very easy to look through the mirror and say, well, you should have done this and that. But there's a lot of time, a lot of energy, a lot of detail put into those discussions and those decisions. A lot of great people spending a lot of hours, making those decisions. But there's opportunities, certainly many opportunities for folks to get plugged in. And I have a little bit of a beef when people want to complain, but they don't want to, get involved to do anything about it. So it's kind of like you're entitled to a voice, certainly, and we're listening, but yeah, it helps to be involved so you understand the process a little bit more. So, and of course, I know all the board of directors are always open to receive input from the association members and bring that back to the board too, so.
Thank you, Sam.
Yeah, if you're not willing to help solve the problems, then you shouldn't complain about them. If you're willing to voice your opinion, and Julie's going to go like this when I say this, there was a particular addendum that was released earlier this year that I didn't really care for at all.
Oh, well, I probably helped draft that addendum, so I'm leaving.
You guys want
It's okay, we'll make it. Okay.
So move seats if you need to.
So, but Julie was kind enough. She listened to me. I emailed her. She would respond back to me, and she's like, I understand where you're coming from, but. And I'm like, yeah, but. So we went back and forth a few times on that, and I reached out to Jody on it. She was the president. Like, Jody, I'm really, really struggling with this. And her and I probably had an hour-long conversation about this. And there were certain things that changed in that addendum after we got done with our conversation. And as I was talking to my agents and explaining this to them, they said, well, what do you mean you just called the board? And I said, well, I can't really complain about this unless I'm going to help solve the problem, or at least let my concerns be known. And that's the awesome thing about our board and our association. Just because I don't agree with it doesn't mean I was right or wrong, but they were at least willing to listen to what I had to say and take that into account. And I think everybody needs to do that. Instead of just complaining about the problem, get involved and see how it's run and see what happens. So.
That's good, Tracie.
Totally agree. Years ago, an old mentor of mine said, he said, you have to be involved in an association or you become a leech on the association. And I think it was a leech on the association. I mean, it's a pretty succinct way of putting it, because you can, if all you're doing is taking from the association, you're really not benefiting anybody, not even yourself. So you've got to give back to an organization that you belong to, and volunteer the time and the effort to not only make sure it's a good running organization, but to do your part in keeping it that way.
Can I add something?
Yeah, absolutely.
So
Sam.
just this, right? How often is it typically you have your company meeting, right, that you can go to, but you're not usually hobnobbing, I'll say, with other agents within the industry. And I think that's a beautiful platform that we have, is to be able to, I can be with people from different companies and different roles on these different committees, that you start seeing different viewpoints on things, and all of a sudden it's not just your little thought or just your company's thought, but you start getting a bigger picture of the industry. And to me, that has been a really cool thing, serving on the committees, to just other people's input, other people's viewpoints.
Yeah, and I think to add to that, Sam, it's the relationships that you build, right? So it's other people's input, but it's the relationships that you build. Like, I wouldn't know half of the people that I know right now and have good working relationships and good rapport with them if I wasn't serving on some of those committees. And so that is how I've met people that have helped elevate my career. And helped given me good working relationships when it comes to, like, my buyer wants to buy your listing, right? And that doesn't determine whether or not they accept the offer, of course, but at least I have a good working relationship and you trust me in order to say this is a good agent that we're going to work with, right? And then I also think, like, when you guys are talking about, so one of the things that struck me when you were talking was on the finance committee. I was on the finance committee for several years, and in 2008, 2009, I don't remember when the HBA shut down, but the HBA, which is the Home Builders Association, shut down their huge building that they had built, right?
Barely do.
Oh, yeah.
It was brand new, it was big, and everybody knew about it, right? And it was on the Beltline. And I got on the finance committee, and I didn't know this about our association, but Julie and staff and Pam and everybody else literally stopped cleaning services for our association, and they started cleaning the buildings themselves. So we're on these committees because we need to support we need to be a part, like John said, of the committees that we believe in, but we need to understand that the people that are working for us here are fighting for us enough to come alongside us and clean the building for us to keep our membership alive. And so I think that is a testament to why we need to give back, right? But why we're gleaning whatever we need to glean from being a part of that membership. And so when Tracie says things like, I get to call and somebody has a dialogue with me for a long period of time and is willing to talk to me about it, that matters, right?
It matters a lot.
So I love that you guys are willing to do that. And I know that most of us don't always recognize, but in a membership based association, we're all voluntarily coming together, right? And there's a thought process behind that. And then we are also having a voice in that membership process. So I think that's huge. So thank you guys for recognizing that and participating. And then finally, we want to talk about not only just how we can volunteer on a local level here, right? Here in our West Michigan area in our bubble, but how do we and what has benefited you guys from being a part of the larger scale membership? And so specifically with RPAC, which I am an RPAC, if you guys don't know what that is, it's the Realtor Action Political Committee. And I am a trustee for that committee and have been for several years. So I'm passionate about it. I know that you guys are all major investors in that. And so that needs to be recognized, and we really appreciate your support for that. But what made you, when you were in your career, so I had that Grarla moment where I was like, okay, Grarla, now I know why I want to be a part of the association, and I know what the association is doing for me as a member. But what aha moment did you guys have that made you think, I really want to be a part of RPAC, and I really want to invest on a major investor level in that capacity? Anybody volunteer?
So I spent, I don't know, probably 8 years on the Government Affairs Committee here at GRAR. And so you start seeing the impact that those dollars actually have. So yeah, there's people that have been in office that we've helped support get in office that have made tremendous strides in helping us as real estate agents. There's a long list, but I'll just give you a few. Grand Rapids Sidewalk Requirements. It wasn't long ago, for those of you that have been around, you remember this, every deal, we had to have the sidewalks inspected. So through, I think, through the work of the Government Affairs Committee and working on getting people into office that would see things a little bit more from our perspective, that was removed. Kent County In Ottawa County, it's mandatory that Ottawa County does a well and septic inspection. You cannot hire an individual company to do that. In Kent County, you can. That didn't happen just because it happened. That was people being involved through the Government Affairs Committee again, and people that we helped to get elected that would listen and hear from our point of view to make sure that that didn't happen. So there's other things. I can tell you there's a city not too far from here that every sale you're required to have your smoke detector inspected. So every sale, you need to have them come in and inspect the smoke detectors. So those kind of things, you know, will happen easily enough here in Grand Rapids and in Kent County and in the state if we don't make those efforts to try to support people that will see those items from a realtor's perspective. We can all get into stories about government overreach and all of that, but we have an opportunity, I think, to protect our industry. It wasn't long ago when we were going to be taxed for some of our income that was business income, and again, that's through on a state level that we fought that, and we're able to win that fight, and so eliminated a big chunk of what we would be paying in state income tax today. So those are just a few things.
Yeah, and I think that's great. I remember back when I was early in my career, and we had to sell, Ryan Ogle, and I, past president, had to sell a property, and it was in the middle of the winter, and the whole driveway was like the driveway and the sidewalk was filled with ice, right? And the sidewalk initiative that Sam is talking about was like, we had to pay, thousands, sometimes thousands of dollars if you didn't have your sidewalk cleared, because the city of Grand Rapids said, all right, here's the penalties. You had to have the sidewalk cleared because they wanted to make sure that they repaired the sidewalk if there was any issues with the sidewalk prior to close, right? So we had deals at that time, some of them short sales, where we had to close the short sales by a certain date. Otherwise, there would be a problem because we had to get like 3, okays from 3 different banks to say, we're willing to close on this date and we're willing to settle on that much. And I think there's a post on Facebook, maybe, I don't know. But Ryan took a blowtorch and he was blowtorching the sidewalk to clear it so that we could get this deal to go through. So things that you do, Sam, like that, both in your efforts to, volunteer your time, but your dollars that go to things like RPAC, that significantly helps private property rights, helping, sellers who have large amounts of costs that have to do with city sidewalks, eliminate those things. And these are big deal issues that we need to pay attention to. So when you get your dues and you're like, what is this RPAC extra dollar amount on there? That's what it goes to, right? It goes to initiatives like that to help people sell their house quicker, which is what we are here for, is to serve the community. So, Tracie, any other thoughts on that?
Yeah, a couple of thoughts on that. The reason that I got involved with RPAC, I'll be very, very honest, I am about the most non-politician, political person ever. I don't watch the news anymore. I just don't even want to hear about politics. But I looked at the list of people and I went, oh, they're really smart. They've been around for a long time. They know what they're doing. I always respect their opinion. And I started to say, I think I probably need to go and check this out because of the people that are already involved. I have a tremendous amount of respect for, and it was really the case. They are out there just trying to better our name, our profession, our livelihood. And Doug and Rob and Brian, those guys during COVID were amazing. And some of us may not have agreed with all of the things that have happened, but you don't have any idea how hard they worked. One of the examples was, Tom and I were talking about this last night, getting open houses back and figuring out a safe way to do those. We were one of the first people that were client-facing industry to be able to go back to work. And the reason we were able to do that is we could literally pick up the phone, call one of those guys and say, here's our idea on how to get us back to work. What do you think about this? And he's like, yep, well, I talked to so-and-so. Between your idea and that idea, I can tweak it into this. And then they're calling Julie, and Julie's going, well, what do you think about this? And they're able to put all these steps in place. And then when they finally can take it to the Lansing decision makers and say, here's our idea, there was no loopholes left for the decision makers to actually say, no, you can't do that. So it came really to light for me during COVID, and I will be a donor until I retire from this business because of how those guys handled it. So that's what I got.
I think the more you get involved, the more you realize how important it all is. I know initially, for the first 20 or 30 years I was in business, it was kind of a pain to write that extra $25. What's going on? Pay a bunch of lobbyists. But once I got involved, and you start realizing what it is that they do, and then especially when I was involved with the Michigan Realtors on the Public Policy Committee, getting to know those guys. I actually went over and testified at a House panel one time when there was a whole dark stores issue, how do we tax dark stores, and when everybody was moving out of these things, how do they value them now that they're a big empty store? And then I think, but probably my big aha moment was back during the 2008-2009 recession. The appraisers took a lot of heat for what happened.
I would not have wanted
What happened during that period?
Yeah.
The appraisers, and I was on a board for the appraisal board too at the time, and I kept saying we need to get some lobbyists in here. But they've got like one lobbyist in D.C. that tries to dictate or steer some legislative programs. The realtors, I mean, we're all realtors, so there was certainly some of that from the realtor political action committee and lobbyists, but not as much. It was primarily let's protect our realtor members and make sure that they're okay through all of this. And as far as I'm concerned, the realtors, the brokers, the salesmen came out relatively unscathed in all of that controversy, where the appraisers, all of a sudden they needed appraisal management companies, they changed some licensing laws, the requirements for getting appraisal were completely different. All of that is now what's impacted the appraisal industry in the inability to train new appraisers to come in, and the time lags that are involved in that. So the long-term impact of those decisions and the lack of a strong lobby at that point are being felt right now. So from that standpoint, the more money that you can send to RPAC, the better off we are.
I would argue, Rachel, that if you put $1,000 a year into RPAC, you more than doubled your investment in less regulatory red tape you have to do with every deal, less taxation. I mean, we always look on return of investment. $1,000 to RPAC every year is a great return on investment when you consider all the things that could be in place without those people, as John was mentioning, and Tracie, lobbying to make sure that our industry is protected.
Yes, and it's not just our industry, right? It's our consumers.
Right.
Right.
That's ultimately who we need to
And
protect.
so I love that, Sam, that you're doubling your investment when you invest in it. But there are so many initiatives right now. I mean, right now we can send out after this meeting the RPAC things that they're working on right now, but short-term private property rental rights is huge, right?
now. Yeah.
And people being able to rent out their property in certain locations in the way that they would like to. They've been working hard on the first-time homebuyer savings accounts, which is great because then parents can invest money and into Michigan, into Michigan property rights or property ownership and have their kids own property here and have a good investment. Housing supply and affordability has been a huge hot topic. Like there is not affordable rentals, there's not affordable homes, right? No. And we as realtors need to be on the cutting edge when it comes to making decisions about that and helping legislative initiatives move forward so that those things can happen, so that we don't have the problem of, lack of inventory like we do right now. And then there's been in the past the pandemic issues, which Tracie talked about, which is awesome. I mean, we wanted to go back to work, right? And we wanted to go back to work safely in a way that was respectable to the community, but we wanted to go back to work. And the folks at RPAC, Brian, Doug, all those folks helped us push that initiative forward. The other hot topic has been that video surveillance. And what does that mean, right? We're all moving forward in this fast-paced technology, and we just don't know how to navigate that. And so what laws are being put in place for that? And so there's so many things that we have dealt with over the last couple of years, but that we'll be dealing with in the future. Like John said, these things that you dealt with the appraisal issues,
Right.
were quite a while back,
Oh,
right?
Yeah,
But they're making a significant impact on today.
right.
So how do we invest our money where our mouths go, make sure that we're supporting the community, putting our best efforts and our voices ahead, and saying, hey, we want to be a part of this decision making so that we can push our industry forward in a good direction, and that we can support real estate or appraisals or whoever's an affiliate in that business moving forward. So I appreciate you guys being a part of this. I know we probably are a couple minutes over, but if you guys have any last minute thoughts, I think the audience would love to hear from you guys versus me, because you've got all sorts of knowledge. And so anything that I missed or...
I'd just like to, what you said initially about most of the people you know now are probably people you met in the industry, which I think is true. I mean, without the committees I've been on and everything else, I mean, you get to know a lot of people. And from an appraiser standpoint, especially when I'm trying to find comparables or some information on something and I call up Sam, I mean, I know I'm going to get a straight answer from Sam because we've worked together and you know him, and it's true with everybody that you meet and respect in the industry. So yeah, it's important.
And it doesn't matter really what that brokerage name is when it comes to respect after you've sat on a committee with somebody. Sam and I have worked together on committees for years and years and years. And it doesn't matter because it's Sam Sterk sitting there. And there's a sense of respect. And when I see his name pop up on my phone, I'm like, oh, I want to talk to him.
Right.
And that's what I think the board does best, is bringing a diverse group of people together and allowing them to have a tough conversation when need be, but also leave that room knowing that we still respect each other and pushing us to our limits.
Well, I have to include staff in this because, many times we take them for granted. And I think Julie and the rest of the team are amazing. And they're the ones that give us these opportunities. They listen to us. They bring about the platforms for us to be engaged and involved, bringing up the level of education. There's just so many areas that I think our association does such an awesome job at. And so, yeah, kudos to them.
Absolutely.
Very much so.
Yep.
150%. I love everybody who's involved and everybody who gives back, and appreciate you guys spending your time giving back, and appreciate the staff.
And thank you for
Thanks,
moderating
Rachel.
this.
This is my favorite thing to do.
Yeah, that's not what you told us. Come on. Something about chalkboard and fingernails. I don't know what it was, but.
That was in privacy beforehand.
And just look, the appraiser's notes on legal size paper, the real estate agent's notes on regular size paper.
That is
Nothing. Cup of coffee.
so.
Do you
Yes.
even own regular size
Yeah,
paper?
we do.
So just to wrap up,
I love it.
thank you for being a part of GRAR, and for those of you guys who are streaming live. I think it's live. I suppose it's live, right?
You're live.
All right, good. Thank you to all of our staff. Thank you for our education committee for allowing us the opportunity to have these things.
Mr. West, thank you.
Scott.
Mr.
Yep.
Scott West, which I mentioned at the beginning, has done an excellent job at coordinating these. And then Julie, Jody, Brittany,
Rick
Rick,
is
I think
around
he's back
somewhere.
there.
Right there. Yeah.
all of you guys are awesome, and we appreciate you. And thank you most definitely to all of you guys for being here and participating and being willing to give back to those in this community. So we just want to wrap up by saying, you know, it would be great to get everybody's more involvement in the association. Like, we would love to see and hear your voices and have you participate in making any changes that are necessary, but also just with the opportunity to be able to network with other agents and cooperate with other folks, which is critical to making a good association run. So
Right.
thank you so much.